Okay, Hare Krishna everybody, this is Krishna Dasa. Welcome to today's session on Narada Bhakti Sutra. Today we will cover Shlokas 23, 24 and that would conclude the first section of the Bhakti Sutra. As I discussed earlier, we are dividing the Bhakti Sutra into 5 logical sections. So this would be the first major section that we will try to complete today. So before we start, let's say the prayers to Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Excellent. Welcome. Chitra, so your Kaku wanted to join. I don't know if it's any technical issue she's facing or if she's just not able to join. So if she has technical issues, please check with her.
Sure, I'll message her.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Simranji. Hope things are okay at your side.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start. We'll start with Shloka 23. Tad-vihīnaṁ jārāṇāmiva.
Jārāṇāmiva.
So what that means is, so before we go into the explanation, does anybody remember where we left in the previous Shloka? Shloka 22. It's always a good idea. Yeah, what is it, Lakshmiji?
Gopis. Madhurya Bhava, the gopis.
Correct. So we discussed how although the gopis were experiencing Madhurya Bhav, but at the same time they had not forgotten the godly nature of Krishna. It was not a normal love. It was love with the realization that Krishna is God. So that is where we left. So now we continue Shloka 23. So what this Shloka means is, if they did not have that knowledge of Krishna's divinity, then their love would have been illicit, just like that of a mistress with any of her men. This is what Naradji is saying. It's a clarity. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya explains the difference between prema and kama. So prema is divine love, whereas kama, it is just lust, bodily love. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Atmendriya priti vancha, tare bali kama, Krishnendriya priti ichcha, dare prema nama. What it means is, the desire to glorify, gratify one's own senses, that is kama, lust. But the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prema. I think we discussed that earlier. This is the fundamental difference between divine love and just normal lust-driven love. So the love that gopis had, the reason we say it is divine is because the gopis had absolutely no self-interest. The gopis were all the time only having Krishna's interest in mind. It was Krishna's happiness. That's all they cared for. That's the difference. In my opinion, humble opinion, even in human love, if the love has to succeed, just one second, I'm seeing Chitraji, is it your Kakuji joining? I want to make sure she doesn't feel lost, so we will wait a minute for her to join. Hare Krishna, Pooja ji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to the satsang.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that you don't feel lost because I just started the session, so I can restart what I had just explained so far. Can you hear us clearly? Yeah, I think it's some...
काकू व्हिडिओ ऑफ ठेवा तर क्वचित बँडविड्थ म्हणजे बरोबर राहिलाय, तुम्हाला ऐकू येईल. Yeah, it must be the connection.
Okay.
Yeah, now she would be able to hear us.
ऐकू येते तुम्हाला? You can hear us? Maybe she's not able to unmute.
काकू ऐकू येत आहे ना? अच्छा
Okay,
अच्छा
okay,
ठीक.
okay, okay. मी quick revision करतो आणि मग we will continue. Let us see if that works. So because I could sense there is some technical issue going on there because the buttons were also not working. So yeah, maybe it's a technical issue. We can continue then. I will share the revision with her. So as I was saying, even in human love, if you really want the love to flourish and if you want it to last long, the key is to, even in human love, we should prioritize the other person's needs rather than our needs. So as long as our love is, oh, I like this person because this person, can please me. If that is our approach, then that love is inferior and that's going to have problems. It's going to be short-lived. So divine love, definitely the focus has to be always how to please God. So because, as they say, half knowledge is dangerous. So there is, in the different bhavas we discussed about Bhakti bhav, one of the bhav was you can consider the Lord as a lover. But then you have to be qualified for that. It is not just, oh, this face looks beautiful, so let me fall in love. That is not the kind of love. It has to be the love that the gopis had. That kind of a love, where there is love, but it is extremely for the satisfaction of the Lord. It is not what you can get out of it. It is what the Lord gets out of it. How do we please the Lord? That's all even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also saying. And so here is a story which is quoted by, there is a saint, her name is Mata Amrutanandamayi. And she quotes a story which I was listening to one of her lectures, and I got that story seemed pretty relevant to our session, so I thought I will adapt it in my session here. So the story goes like this. Once a visitor from Mathura, he went to Vrindavan and he met the gopis. And he could see that the gopis are all very sad and they are almost in tears because they had been separated from Krishna. Krishna went to Mathura and they are staying back in Vrindavan. So they were all in a sense of distress. And then when they heard that this visitor is coming from Mathura, they were very happy and they talk a lot about Krishna to the visitor. They take the visitor to different places. They show him where Krishna killed the snake, Kalia, where Krishna used to take the cows for grazing, where Krishna killed Chakadasura, so on and so forth. They are all talking about Krishna, showing various places where they spend time with Krishna and all of that. And then they asked, how is Krishna? Does he remember us? Is he happy there in Mathura? And is he planning to come back at all? They asked the visitors these questions. Now the visitor, he was very pained to see this state of these gopis. And he says, as far as I know, Krishna is living happily in Mathura. He is having a joyful time with his wives, Bhama and Rukmini. While you are crying here thinking about Krishna, I don't think he's concerned about you at all. Now the visitor thought, sincerely he thought, that now I am telling like this, now these gopis, they are going to be remorseful, they are going to get angry, and they are going to probably stop loving Krishna. That is what he thought. But nothing of that sort happened. The moment the gopis heard that Krishna was having a nice time and Krishna was living happily, their faces brightened up. They said, oh, is that so? Krishna is happy. What else do we want? His happiness is our only happiness. Thank you for bringing such good news. The gopis started removing their golden bangles and rings and all of that, and they presented it to the visitor saying, this is all yours, all for giving us this good news that Krishna is happy. See, that is selfless love. How many of us can do that? That the person we love is away from us, has forgotten us, is living happily, and we are happy about that. Is it possible? When that becomes possible, then we become eligible for Madhurya Bhav. Then we become eligible for selfless love towards God. That is what this story is all about. So this is divine selfless love, where the gopis are only thinking about the happiness of Krishna. And That is why Krishna had a very special place for these gopis in his heart. That is the reason. In fact, he used to say that the dust of the feet of these gopis is also very holy. And that is the whole tatparya behind us putting this gopi chandan. So what I have put on my forehead, it is not really sandalwood. It is the mud of Vrindavan, and the belief is that is the dust of the feet of the gopis. So it is symbolic that it should help us get towards that state of selfless love that these gopis had for God. That is what the true divine love is all about. Now let's go to the next shloka, shloka 24.
I want to tell one thing, Vinayak. My cousin, she went to Vrindavan. She told everybody they will roll on the mud, because gopis were dancing there, Krishna were dancing there. So everybody go around on the mud floor. They will go around. And she also did it. She said, no, just I want to have the dust on my body. That's I want to.
Yeah. It's beautiful, right? And that is a very beautiful thing.
Because the Krishna played there, gopis played there. So we want to get that kind of a bhakti and bhava means at least by the dust.
Yes. So basically, these are all the reasons why it's a stepwise process. Unless you have been an elevated soul in the previous birth, it's not possible that suddenly you start from zero and you directly become like a gopi and you have Madhurya Bhav and everything. There is a process. And that process is what Sri Krishna has explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Starting from how humility, lack of ego, respect to the Guru, and all the processes to follow, the yoga, the niskama karma, they're all the processes that help purify us. Because unless purification happens, we cannot just become a gopi. We cannot just become that kind of a divine lover. But the purpose of the process should be this. That is what Narada Muni is explaining. We shouldn't get hung up in the process. There is no point in going out and, saying, hey, I'm such an expert in Bhagavad Gita. I know all the shlokas. I can recite them forward, backward, and all of that. And people are praising me. People are like, that is not the goal at all. The goal of the Bhagavad Gita is to practice all the teachings, practice the process that Krishna has taught, so that we can reach the stage of these gopis. So let's go to Shloka 24. Nāsti eva tasmins tat-sukha-sukhitvam.
Tat-sukha-sukhitvam.
Excellent. In the profane love for the paramour, the sense of happiness in the happiness given to another surely does not exist at all. So Naradji is again approaching it from another angle. And so the love that the gopis had for the Krishna was tat-sukha-sukhitvam, which means deriving happiness from the happiness given to Lord Shri Krishna. That is the happiness. And this is a very important aspect of bhakti or divine love. In the material world, we do everything with the goal of achieving happiness for our own selves. Everything we do, it has to lead to happiness for us. Otherwise, we don't do it. Whereas in divine love, the way the gopis have set the example, everything they did was only because they wanted to see Krishna happy. It was for Krishna's happiness. Earlier we discussed how every human being has an emptiness within them and how that emptiness was by design, if you remember. Here we can say that because we are all a tiny spark of the ever blissful God, we keep striving to experience that kind of divine bliss. Do you understand what I'm saying? We believe that we are a tiny spark of God. This is what Bhagavad Gita explained in chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga. They said soul. The soul is Purusha. It is a spark. It is a spark of Purusha, the never-changing aspect. And God is always eternally blissful, Satchidananda. Now, because we are a tiny spark of that Satchidananda, we have that inherent longing to experience that bliss. We may not realize it. It may not be conscious. but it is there. We want to realize that bliss. But in pursuit of that bliss, we keep running behind material love. And because such material love can only give us short-term happiness, we can never experience bliss through this material love. The only way we can experience this bliss is through divine love for God. If you don't realize that, that is the reason all of us, most of us, keep running all our lives. You have seen that rat inside a wheel, right? It will keep running. It thinks it is going somewhere, but all its life it is where it was, going in circles. That's what we do. If we look at our own lives, starting from childhood, we have been running behind so many things. We have never been satisfied. It never ends. Our desires keep growing stronger. They keep becoming fancy. I want this, I want that. I will be happy if I get this. I will be happy if I get that. I will be happy if I marry. I will be happy if I get children. I will be happy if my children are settled. I will be happy if my children marry. You keep, running. And before you realize, you can no longer run. That's the whole point. Here Naradji is very beautifully saying that bliss that we seek, we run behind material love, we run behind these material relationships because of that longing for eternal bliss. And we have that longing for eternal bliss because we are a tiny spark of Sachidananda, who is always blissful. So you cannot escape from that longing. However, if you know how to fulfill it, then you would have fulfilled the purpose of your life. And Naradji says the only way to fulfill it is develop that kind of divine love for God in which there is no selfishness. And Lord Krishna says, if you want to develop that kind of divine love, which is selfless, then here is the process that you have to follow. It is like saying, dahi banna hai. I want curd. You can't sit and wish for curd. There is a process. You have to buy milk, you have to heat milk, you have to then do something to milk, then you have to keep it overnight. And then the next day, curd is yours. It's a law, right? It's a law of nature. If you do A, B, C, D, the result will be curd. Just like that. If you follow Krishna's steps, if you follow Krishna's processes, then you will definitely reach the end goal. That is what Lord Narada Muni is also repeating here very beautifully. So the point is, when all our senses, they're all turned outwards, correct? Our eyes are looking out, ears are hearing what is outside. But if we have to realize God, what we have to do? We have to turn them inwards. This you would have read in many other scriptures also. Similarly, when it comes to divine love, instead of loving for the sake of our happiness, we have to love for the sake of God's happiness. We just have to change the direction. So you change the direction of your senses and also you change the direction of your love, then that is the right path to go towards Madhurya Bhav. Now when Shri Krishna went to Mathura, the gopis did not go to meet him. Why? Why the gopis never went to Mathura to meet Krishna? Because of their selfless thinking. They thought that if Krishna derived happiness from meeting them, then he would have come to Vrindavan. See their thinking. It is very simple, but very effective thinking. So they were thinking, if meeting us made Krishna happy, then Krishna would have already come to Vrindavan. Who can stop Krishna? But he did not. That means he was happy in Mathura. So they did not want to go to Mathura and meet Krishna for their own happiness. See the thinking. The thinking is, it doesn't look like our meeting with Krishna is going to give Krishna happiness. So if we go to Mathura, it is going to be for our happiness, and that we don't want to do. They just wanted Krishna's happiness. Even if they themselves were feeling paramavyakulta. Does that term seem familiar? We discussed it a few shlokas ago. So they were undergoing paramavyakulta, but even in that state, they were asking this question, that why should we go to Mathura if it is not going to be the source of happiness for Krishna? We are going through paramavyakulta, that is our problem. Let us not go to Mathura just to satisfy our problem, just to make us happy. Such an elevated example, that is kind of the perfect example of pure selfless love. It's not easy. it's not really easy at all to cultivate this kind of love, but that should be our North Star. That should be our goal. Now, Sant Kabir beautifully said, बेश देख न पूजिए, पूछ लीजिए ज्ञान, बिना कसौटी होत नाही कंचन की पहचान. Do not go after outward appearance. Seek only real knowledge. Without a test, how do you know whether it is really gold? See, what that actually means is, God will also test us. As they say in the West, love is not a bed of roses. It is even more true about divine love. See, be it love for Guru or be it love for God, it is not easy. If it was easy, it wouldn't be glorified. We will be tested and we have to pass the test. And that will be the proof that we are truly ready for selfless love. See, for example, if Krishna had not gone to Mathura, leaving behind the gopis, the world would not have found out about the divine love that the gopis had. We would not have had this example now to talk about. So Krishna had to do his lila, his part. That was his test. And the gopis had to pass that test. That is what becomes an example of divine love. I hope that makes sense. So Kabir is saying the same thing, that you want pure gold. But how do you know it is pure gold? Unless you test. How do we test for gold? It is by heating. That is the best test to test gold. So just like that, you want to cultivate divine love. But how would you know that you have divine love? Unless it is put to test. That is the purpose of a test. So there will be test. And what Krishna has said, that bhav has to be there first. You have to have that bhav to various entities. Like Sulataji mentioned in the other forum, you have to have that bhav to other devotees first. Krishna's devotees. Are you able to cultivate that bhav? Then you have to have that bhav to the Guru. Are you able to cultivate that bhav to the Guru? Then you have to have that bhav for humanity. Are you able to cultivate that for all of humanity? So we discussed in Bhagavad Gita, when you actually practice detachment, your love, the surface area of the love increases. So instead of just loving my own child, my own husband, my own wife, you will be able to love humanity. Like that, step by step, you progress. And then you become eligible to actually practice divine love for the divine God. And throughout this process, there will be tests. And when you pass the test, it is for you. It is not for God. God already knows what you are capable of. God knows you inside out. So those tests are not for God to find out whether you have divine love. Those tests are for you to confirm to yourself where you are. I hope that makes sense. And Sant Kabir also says, Premi dundat main firu, premi miliya na koi, premi ko premi mile, tab sab vish amrit hoi. His language is very sweet. His language is beautiful. Whoever can understand, it's such a beautiful experience. So he says, lovers of God I sought, but they are so rare. Once such lovers meet, all poisons turn into nectar. So he's talking about satsang. He's talking about devotees who have this love for God. So people with such selfless love for God, Kabir says, they are very rare. Only 1 in a million will demonstrate such love for God. Now these rare lovers of God can instantly recognize someone who has similar love for God in their hearts. Keep that in mind. True devotees, they can instantly recognize other true devotees. The show is different. There are millions of show-making devotees all around us. But the real true devotee, you cannot miss. If you are a true devotee, it is like magnet. You can instantly identify the other true devotee. And when such devotees meet, they feel an immediate bond. And Kabir says, and when they meet, all disturbances, noise, they all get replaced with a vibration of peace and bliss. See, we have all experienced the opposite. Sometimes we are in a train, we are in a bus, or we are in a restaurant, and we suddenly feel very annoyed. We are like, I just don't like the vibration of this person or this group of people. There are a group of people sitting in a table chatting loudly, and you just feel annoyed. That experience we have had, because those kind of people are the majority. All around us. We find those people more often. But Kabira says the opposite. When you find a true devotee, then you will feel peaceful and you will feel calm, you will feel bliss. One more reason why satsang is important. I don't mean to sound negative. I'm not negative. I'm positive, but I just have to get the message across is I feel so tired telling people, make the most of satsanga, participate. It's just so tough. It is like pulling teeth out, and I don't understand. People just don't understand. I'm happy to record. I'm happy to give you notes, but as I keep telling you, you don't need me for that. You go to YouTube. Google Guru is the best guru today. There is nothing that you can't find there. Bhakti Sutra, you will find books, you will find recordings. Bhagavad Gita, you will find million recordings. What is important is this experience, where we have 9 or 10 people sitting together at the same time. We are all expressing the same bhav. We all have the same vibration. This is the magic of collective consciousness. This, you may not realize it, but this is actually opening up many portals in you. It is actually purifying you. It is purifying me. When I say you, I'm talking together, collectively. That is why this satsang is important. Not just this satsang, any satsang. If you can find a group of pure devotees, I think you should prioritize spending time with them, because that will itself give you a blissful experience and it will purify you. That's the whole idea. So for people who have succeeded in cultivating such selfless love, Shri Krishna has provided an assurance in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. I just want to repeat that. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru mam evashyasi yuktaivam atmanam mad parayanah. That is 934, where Krishna says, always think of me, be devoted to me, worship me, and offer obeisance to me. Having dedicated your mind and body to me, you will certainly come to me. That's an assurance. What else do we need? I think with that we can conclude verse 24. And then before concluding today's session, I think we can go through the questions that you had asked me earlier. Okay, I think Anika ji is not here. This was her question, I think. Hare Krishna, Anika ji.
Hare Krishna.
Anika ji, can you repeat your question? The one.
Yes, Vinayak Prabhuji. We are said to be a part of Brahman, hence we inherit the divine powerful love. So why doesn't it overpower one's material desires, making us remain consistent in the path of bhakti from the start itself?
Excellent question. So I hope you all understood the question. Basically, she's asking is, we are like whatever we just said. We are a divine spark, and we are a spark of Sachidananda. We are a spark of the divine. So why are we not naturally full of bhakti? That's a good question, correct? Now the answer to this question is provided by Shri Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3. If I remember correctly, Anika ji, you are the one who recited the Shlokas when we had the first session of Bhagavad Gita. So this is chapter 3 verse 38. You can read it later, but I can tell you what the translation is. Just as fire is covered by smoke, a mirror is masked by dust, and an embryo is concealed by the womb, similarly one's knowledge gets shrouded by desires and attachments. Chitra ji also had a serious question when we discussed this shloka. I don't know if she remembers. She was like, what is wrong with a womb covering an embryo? I remember that question. Okay. So what Krishna has said is, these are all the kind of things that cover our true inner self, our true inner nature. Now those, basically Krishna is calling out desire as the key problem here. And those desires can be tamasic, rajasic or sattvic. And Krishna is explaining that using these examples. So for example, he says, as fire covered by smoke. That is one example for one type of desire. So this is like we all know that you can just blow a little bit of air and the smoke goes away, correct? So although that is a covering for the fire, it is not that problematic a cover. I mean, a little bit of wind you blow and that cover goes away. That is an example of sattvic desires. Still desires, it is still a problem. But sattvic desires can be blown away quickly. The second example is a mirror covered by dust, slightly more problematic. Because once a mirror is, all the dust is sticking to a mirror, just a wind won't do the job. You have to actually go take a cloth or something and scrub it, put soap, put water, whatever. Correct? So that is like a rajasic desire. That is how our rajasic desires are. It is harder to get rid of them. But they are also covering your inner true self. The third example Krishna gives, as the embryo is covered by the womb, you can do nothing there. If the embryo is scheduled to stay within the womb for 9 months, then no amount of wind, no amount of scrubbing is going to help. It has to fulfill that time period. Till then, that covering is not going to go away. So that is an explanation of a tamasic desire. Where when we have tamasic desire, so lust is a tamasic desire. That is why Krishna has said kama krodha as the top two. You remember? He said these are the top two issues that we have. And kama, lust, is the number one. Because it is so strong, it is so animalistic, it is extremely, extremely difficult to get rid of it. So we have to always keep a watch for that. And so using these, Krishna is kind of explaining. So to answer your question, Krishna is saying, these are all the types of desires that we have, which are all covering us at different levels. And that is why we are not able to realize our true inner self, which includes the true bhava of bhakti. I hope that answers your question, Anika ji. Okay. You had one more question, I think.
Yes, Prabhuji. So we had discussed about jnana and karma, that they are linked with each other and they result in bhakti. And with an enlightened mind, when one performs karma devoid of any desires or expectations, it is known as nishkama karma, which results in bhakti. So, but to attain jnana, we should have bhakti, right?
I'm very happy that at your age you are thinking so deeply. These are very deep questions. You are basically saying jnana helps convert karma into nishkama karma, and nishkama karma leads to bhakti. But then to get that bhakti, should we need jnana, and to get jnana, shouldn't we have bhakti? So you are talking about that cyclic relationship. So the way Sri Krishna has explained the relationship is that once we apply jnana, then our karma becomes nishkama. Until jnana is applied to the equation, karma doesn't become nishkama. That much is clear. And then once we continuously practice nishkama karma, it gives rise to bhakti. Now what Krishna is also saying, it not just gives rise to bhakti, it helps increase the inherent bhakti that you have. That is what nishkama karma actually does for you. We can be purely intellectual, and we can, practice jnana yoga, or we can be purely action oriented and we can practice karma yoga. However, only when these two come together, they take us on the path to bhakti yoga. Otherwise, you can remain a jnani all your life and you can remain a karmi all your life. But when jnana and karma, when they come together, they become bhakti. Now, we always have a choice whether we want to directly start with bhakti, because Krishna said later in the Bhagavad Gita that that's a shortcut. And this is what Krishna told Arjuna, right? He said, yeah, you can go from here, you can go from there, but then the shortcut is you can directly go from here. If you just use bhakti right from the beginning, choose the path of bhakti. Another thing that you should remember is, although Krishna said you can directly choose the path of bhakti, he also warned us that we should not try to escape from our duties. So we shouldn't have this mindset that, oh, I'm just sitting and practicing bhakti, so I don't have to perform my duties. Krishna says that is counterproductive. You have to do your duties because we are all having karmic obligations. We have to fulfill them. You can't escape from them. That is why Krishna explained in the Bhagavad Gita, starting from Karma Yoga. So if you see, Bhakti Yoga comes later in the Bhagavad Gita, although Bhakti Yoga is supposed to be more important. Because Krishna understands, or Krishna knows that as human beings, we have obligations. We have our duties to perform, which we cannot escape from. That is why he first teaches Karma Yoga. He starts with Jnana, Sankhya Yoga. Then he starts with Karma Yoga. Then he says, how do you combine them to make it Nishkama Karma? And then he says, once you do that, how it becomes Bhakti Yoga. See the progression. Another thing Krishna had said was, there is no escape from karmic reactions. So you cannot say that I will not do any karma, so I'm going to escape karmic. That doesn't happen because you sit and breathe, you are killing a million germs, that is karma. So you can't escape. The only way is, so this is not a progression in a way, it is the only way in order for us to reach bhakti, is do your karma with a bhav of surrender, without any doership, which becomes nishkama karma. That is how you escape from the cycle of karmic reactions. And that is how your bhakti will you already have bhakti. We all have bhakti in us, as we just discussed. It is just hidden. But you practice this kind of nishkama karma yoga, that bhakti will also grow and new bhakti will also come. And that is how you get onto the path of bhakti yoga. I hope that answers your question, Anika ji.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Hare Krishna.
No, thank you. Thank you for being a source of inspiration and thinking so deeply. We all appreciate that. Please continue on this path. The best
Yes,
wishes.
sir.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare Krishna. Chitra ji, you had a question?
Yes. Do you want me to read the question?
Yeah. If you can remind me what your question was.
Yes. So my question is very basic. It's not this deep. It's just a constant question everywhere I go, especially to all the pilgrimages that I recently been to. And don't want to be judgmental, but this is where it comes to my mind, is like while performing bhakti in state of anuraga and the desire of worshipping our God, Krishna, or forms of Krishna, how can we ensure to maintain that moderation?
Got it. That's your question. Yes. Thank you so much. See, as discussed earlier, there are two types of bhakti. Apara bhakti and para bhakti. So para bhakti is a higher form of bhakti, apara bhakti is the lower form of bhakti. And there are two stages of bhakti. I mean, there are not just two, there are many, but we are talking about at a high level, if you want to categorize. So para bhakti, apara bhakti, lower and higher bhakti, and then we have Siddha Bhakti and Sadhana Bhakti. That is what we discussed during the beginning of Narada Bhakti Sutra, where Siddha Bhakti basically is you have established in Bhakti Yoga, you have received the grace of God. And Sadhana Bhakti is practicing devotion. All the various external shows of devotion, they all belong to Apara Bhakti and they all belong to Sadhana Bhakti. In other words, when you are still not perfected in Bhakti, lower levels of Bhakti, and when you are still practicing Bhakti, you have not yet advanced in Bhakti. That is where all these external shows come. Some people are hugging a shivling, some people are doing whatnot. I mean, the things that look like not in moderation, most of that belong to these categories. It is still work in progress. Now, Shri Krishna himself has emphasized on samatvam. I hope that word sounds familiar. Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, sthita pragya and samatvam. So Krishna himself has all the time emphasized on moderation. True bhakti is a stage when we are totally absorbed in God and full of internal bliss. The bliss is internal. That is true bhakti. Now, there are great saints like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa who were God-realized souls. They were full of bliss, but he was one of the quietest and calmest people. He never had this external show of doing anything fancy, And most of the extreme emotions that we see, they are all based more by attachment to certain beliefs and faith rather than pure bhakti. They are all a manifestation of attachment. Bhakti comes when we practice detachment. In bhakti, we are not talking about my statue is better than your statue, or the name I use for God is better than the name you use for God. Because I'm so attached to the name I use for my God, I'm screaming that name aloud all the time. That is lack of moderation, because that is not yet the higher stage of bhakti. And Lord Krishna himself has spoken about this in chapter 12, Shlokas 13 and 14, where Krishna says, those devotees are very dear to me who are free from malice towards all living beings, who are friendly and compassionate. They are free from attachment and egotism, and they are balanced and calm in happiness, distress, and they are ever forgiving, because they are always steadily united with me in devotion, self-controlled, firm resolve. See, what are the things he's calling out there? Balanced and calm, steady mind, self-control. So, as you can see, moderation is required, but the point is, when we are actually achieved or when we are actually progressed on bhakti, you don't have to be moderate about how much you love God. That is not the point. There is no depth, there is no limit there. But you need to be moderate about your expressions outward. And your question was about that outward stuff. So in the outward, definitely moderation is required, and you just have to follow these teachings of Krishna to maintain moderation, samatvam, and then I think it is in alignment. I hope that answers your question.
Yes and no, because it's like, again, then the aspect of bhav comes, because then people try to justify that it's the bhav, the pure bhav with which they are offering. And then in applying that aspect of bhav, I feel the moderation aspect is lost. But then they don't realize that.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let us say you and me are lovers. Now you are telling me, my idea of love is if you sit quietly next to me and enjoy the nature with me, I'm going to feel really happy. But I am saying, no, because I have love for you, I want to just play a loud song. I want to take you for dancing. Now, is my love divine love, or is my love selfish love? Because I'm not caring what you need. I'm caring what I need and how I want to express it. This is exactly what we discussed about gopis' love. Where the gopis were not making a show. Okay, so if you have that bhav, then you have to follow what Krishna himself has said. Just like if somebody truly loves you, then they have to follow what you like, what you have telling them. I am coming and telling you I have love for you, but then I am not following what you want. I am following what I want. Then what kind of divine love is that? So this is a misconception. So that bhava has to be checked, whether it is truly divine bhava or is it a bhava which has got corrupted by attachments and emotions. I hope now that makes it clear.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's just that the way it's practiced at such a vast level. Like I went to Dwarka. There you see the pujaris having this conversation about ye jewelry yahan se pehnana hai, isko wahan se pehnana hai, this is how. It's like, really, is it that important? And does it really matter to Krishna?
See, Krishna very clearly said, this is Anisha's favorite shloka, right? Krishna said, give me a leaf, give me a piece of stone, give me water, I'm happy. When did Krishna ever say that put me golden necklace or silk dress or what of that? That is not what, that is what we want to do. That is not what Krishna wants us to do. Krishna says, but I'm not going to stop you. If you want to do, go ahead and do it. But let us not be in a delusion that that is divine love. That is, we are doing it for our happiness.
Right. You answered it.
Thank you. So there is this one other question that has come to me about, in your explanation of 15th shloka, there is a mention of feelings when we see the other person. Is it Simran, your question? Do So do you have any simpler version of that question like that you would like to ask?
Yeah, I was just wanting to ask that when you explain about if we are in love with that person, then we feel whatever. So if we just replace that person with Krishna, then can we say that we are elevated or we are already starting on the path?
Absolutely,
What is
absolutely.
love?
Absolutely. That is the whole concept of Bhakti Yoga. Focusing our mind totally on God all the time. And as Krishna himself has said in the Bhagavad Gita, when you progress on the path, you will see Krishna in a cow, in a dog, in everything.
Yeah,
In everything. So once we reach that stage, then we are pretty much getting there. Excellent. Sulataji, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand what does it mean by bhakti is an end in itself and also the means.
Yeah. Thank you. That's another deep question. So, as an end in itself, bhakti is considered to be a state of complete devotion and love for the divine, where the devotee experiences immense joy and peace through the practice of bhakti. In this sense, bhakti is the ultimate goal and purpose of life. And practicing bhakti provides fulfillment and satisfaction in and of itself. You are in bhakti, you already got satisfaction. As a means to an end, bhakti is also the path to attain liberation, self-realization, and union with the divine. So through the practice of bhakti, you purify your mind, we evolve spiritually, and ultimately reach God, where we remain in eternal bhakti. So that is the means. Bhakti as a means to purify yourself, to help you evolve, and ultimately gain liberation and reach God, where we will remain eternally in bhakti. So, as you can see, bhakti can be both an means as well as an end, because bhakti is what you need to progress and reach God, and once you reach God, you are in eternal bhakti. Bhakti is the end as well, and that's your goal. So, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I'm grateful to all of you for your active participation. And when you look back at these sessions, maybe after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, if you look back at these sessions, these questions that you asked, you will not forget the answers. It's a fact. This is how our mind works. In a classroom, 10 students may have 10 questions. The teacher may give 10 answers to all those 10 questions. But the question that you asked, and when the teacher answers that question, that answer stays with you. You know, I still remember the answer I got when I was in my 5th standard, when I did not know Marathi at all. My Marathi was so bad that I don't even want to go into details. My Hindi was also bad. My Marathi was worse. And the teacher used to always try to, and I used to sit in the last bench, the cornermost, darkest part of the classroom. I was always afraid the teacher should not ask me any question, because I am absolutely clueless what is going on in the class. But once the teacher tried something different, the teacher said, "Vinayak, do you have any question?" And I had so many questions because I understood nothing. And then I asked her one question about what is Gandhiji actually saying. It was a chapter in Bal Bharati in Marathi, and the teacher said, "No, laka lokancha angavar kapad nahi, खायला अन्न नाही, हे बघून गांधीजींच्या स्वतःच्या कापड टोचू लागला, बोचू लागला." See, I still remember the entire answer. I went home smiling that the teacher answered my question. And that answer stayed with me. That is the psychology behind me forcing you to ask me questions. Because if I ask you a question, you will go through the whole notes and just focus on that part which has an answer. And your job is done. You will copy paste, you are done. But if I say, "Do you have questions?" you have to first go through the entire notes. Then you will figure out which part of it you are doubtful. And then you are asking the question, I'm giving you the answer. That answer will stay with you. This is the only intent. It is more work for me, because instead of you finding answers, I'm finding answers again. But I'm happy to do that for your sake. All I'm requesting is, please don't take it negatively. I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable or anything. It is all for your own evolution and making sure that the answer stays with you. So thank you again. I'm grateful to all of you for the active involvement, participation. Hare Krishna. I will see most of you tomorrow in the Bhagavad Gita sessions. Till then, Hare Krishna. Today we finished the first section, so which is a good accomplishment. Let us feel happy about that. I think Krishna's grace is with us. Naradji, thank you, Naradji, for helping us. The first section is kind of done, and from the next section, Naradji will explain again in different ways why Bhakti is superior. So he will start talking about Bhakti in that aspect. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.